The underbody treatment on a 2009 is in pretty good condition, but there are some nuances that I'd be more careful about. It's best to check the underbody condition of your car, as there are some areas that aren't visible to the naked eye. However, if you clean it up a bit and take a closer look, you'll see that some areas deteriorate very quickly, even if they weren't treated at the factory. I'll start with the front. Basically, the front is the most sensitive area, which used to be the front. If I see any major issues, I'll let you know right away. The subframe has been treated with anti-corrosion treatment. While here it's just pure anti-corrosion treatment, which doesn't become rubbery. It's constantly in a semi-liquid state, attracting dust and holding up very well, and it washes off. It's problematic, that is, in principle, this treatment will last for about a couple of years. Then you can go over it again with a brush. Then everything here was blown with a gun. With the same anti-corrosion product, only with the addition of push sole. About 40% push sole, 60 anti-corrosion, heated, guns, a compressor. All this was blown. The main place, the most important, is the thresholds will need to be blown out. Here are these plugs along the entire perimeter. On one side and the other, you remove them, blow in there without fail. When removed, the paint there was in almost perfect condition. No rust, but it is better to treat because I didn't have the opportunity to treat it before, because it was very cold. But only now my hands got around it, all the places. The entire part is completely treated. It was treated on the date of the photo shoot. It hasn't even been dusted yet. Well, this is it, you'll see it all. There was a little rust, mostly here at the joints. Closer to the jack, this part was a little damaged, there was rust. But it was very, very fine. That is, basically, just clean it up, treat it with a converter, blow it all out and there were no problems. The most important thing is that what was damaged the most was just the rear right left wheel. I don't know why exactly the right one was in better condition. But there was a lot of rust here that had to be treated all over. This part, this whole one, here, the corrosion started, more severe. In general, basically, this piece was the most damaged, in fact. In principle, it was even necessary not just to clean it up, but to scrape off the metal. It was already starting to fall off in such pieces. That is, the corrosion was very, very strong, but not critical. That is, there are no through holes. Yes, the metal was damaged, but it can all be fixed if in time, that is, another 2 or 3 years, and this entire part would have to be re-welded. And that would be a whole other cost. That is, this is the main part, which needs to be examined very carefully. Because when I took it apart, removed the plastic, and there is a video. Here, this entire part, there was plastic here. Here, I'm showing with the camera, it was here. And there was plastic protection around the entire perimeter. Literally right here, it ended on here. Here is the crossbar, but it doesn't protect the part. I'm talking about this main one. And after cleaning it thoroughly, I tried to check it there with some kind of knife. That is, I see that the corrosion has already gone much more massive. All of this had to be urgently localized. Well, the treatment was planned anyway, but I had to suffer, that is, it caused problems. But everything is solvable, further. And here also along the inner part of the arch. Here on this side, and then I'll show you from above. There are two places where the corrosion has gone more severely, but pretty much as high quality as possible. Where it was possible to finish it off with a gun. This part is already on the passenger side. The right rear, that is, on the passenger side, here. The whole mixture. Now how can I show you? That is, for example, here it is processed, it seems rough. But in fact it remains so liquid. Like liquid flooring, it will remain like this forever. Which is its good thing, it will not fight off, it won't come off, moisture won't get under it. This is the maximum, the best protection, that's how. Well, there are a lot of such options on the internet. Where they do these kind of welds, they also add motor oil, but this is a better option than treating it with some kind of rubber-like compound. I can't say based on the markings, in principle, whoever watches the video who is interested, they understand what I'm talking about, but this option, this is the second car that I've treated in the last 10 years, and I'm very happy. The second one was 2007, it's still poor, practically like new. It was just treated on time, no one treated it, I had to do it. I'll show you now and two more. One more place, which is the most important one. That you need to pay attention to, because you can end up without sills or without the arch of the left rear wheel on the driver's side is the place that is very susceptible to corrosion, in the Honda CR-V. Well, at least in the third generation, there is no fender liner on the rear wheels. There is a small edging here, which goes along the edging. Basically, that's all around the perimeter, there is a small mudguard in the back. In principle, there is also a small mudguard in the front. Here it is located on that's all. This mudguard is the most dangerous place. And under it the most moisture accumulates, this is exactly this part. Some of them are suffering greatly. There's sealant here, yes, there's a lot of it, they didn't skimp on it. But the water flow down to the sealant causes corrosion. Between the sealant and the metal, I wouldn't have even noticed. If I hadn't noticed rust there when I was sanding it down. The further I cut away the sealant, the more corrosion there was. It's the left side that suffered the most. So I had to pay more attention here. Spend time, remove all the sealant, prime it, sand it down. Apply new sealant, and then seal it all with a wing nut. It doesn't really matter what kind of sealant you have, as long as it's At least high quality. Or whatever you can find. That's up to the manufacturer. I don't know, I won't recommend which one was local, or which one my friends recommended, so I went with that. I also treated the arch. Because even though it's metal, it's supposedly covered with plastic. The earth is also abandoned, it suffers, there was swollen paint. That is, everything was cleaned, treated with primer. Under the paint, everything was also treated with the same anti-corrosion. That is, I didn't go further, the arch itself is. Remove this fender liner, no problem. Here, in principle, there is one in. The second screw, 2 Phillips screws here. Here is one clip, that's it, remove it. Clean it from dirt and check the condition, because the metal is thin. Very thin, especially in this part, you can bend it with your finger there. And it quickly begins to corrode. That is, you can get additional ventilation and quickly, and yourself. You understand, such a volume of work here will be quite large in price. Time and effort, so be careful. On the right side, somehow, everything is much simpler. Yes, there was a little bit of sealant there, I cut it off, also looked. It seems to be better, the metal is stronger there, it remained more alive, but there were more problems here. That's why it was processed better, well, in principle. All of it, the arch, everything completely, the entire fender liner, everything here, everything that is. Everything was additionally processed. There was basically some processing there, but it was already worn out, it was weak. It was covered with dirt. And so it was completely processed around the perimeter. Now I am calm, in principle, they say. It is better not to put it under the fender, so that less rot, but you need to protect this internal place. So this issue with the lamb was resolved. And the same on the thresholds is definitely processed. It rained today, through a little dirt, it will all be cleaned. Put back, plastic cover. In principle they were preserved quite well, I expected the worst. The condition was good. These plugs were also removed, everything was blown in there. You can treat the car, since the cavities there are very narrow and there is no. You don't have a device, that is, a gun. You can take a regular can of Movil and treat it. It won't be unnecessary, it's inexpensive, but you will know that the sills will be intact, that is, no rust, no chips anywhere. No swollen paint, nothing. I myself was very surprised. How it was preserved so well. Basically, yes, he threw a little on the doors. But it will all be removed, it's all with some spirit, it can be cleaned. The same thing basically applies to the rear door. The rear door is also completely treated, you can just go over it with a brush. Preferably with the same compound that is used for treating the underbody, that is, push-all anti-corrosion. In order to preserve all this, I think it is better to spend time, if there is an opportunity. If there is a desire, if there is a person who will help you, that is, I did this with a friend who has the equipment, the same gun, it is inexpensive, plus a compressor, well. Probably. High quality, thorough processing takes. And blowing is not a problem at all, and we warmed it up a little. Went into all the places, into all the hidden cavities, blowing it all out. is not difficult, well, in general. If there were no problems with the rear, left wheel, because there was a lot of corrosion there, more attention would have been spent. Plus additionally, here is the treatment of the fender liners. This was also done, or rather the rear wheel arches. This is purely for peace of mind. You can process with such a composition, but it will last, well, maybe a year. Especially if you have such wet weather, maybe less. So I highly recommend it. This applies not only to this kind of car, but to any car in principle. No, watch this, the underbody, the condition. Because you understand, re-welding, then painting. Treating, that costs a whole other amount of money. But in principle, if you want, 2 people, well, 2 people can do it in 2 weekends. Without rushing to process it qualitatively, soundly, in principle, I decided to do it myself. Because I will see where it is blowing, how it is blowing, how it was all processed. What it was processed with, and how well. I will simply now be calm that the car is processed for the body. I do not worry about the condition of the bottom. There at least after the winter I can get in to look, maybe somewhere. Grease, maybe somewhere it was washed off. Anything can happen. Maybe somewhere there is rubbed in. So look, ask inquiries. I highly recommend it. This is one of those things that needs to be done right away. The car was bought almost before winter. So there was no opportunity, but the point is cold. This should be done in the summer. Well, I managed to do it. Only in the fall, but fortunately the weather was good, it was possible to do this. So guys, good luck to everyone.